Judge, imagine you working on and on for hours because you don't have the culture or that you don't know to have self-care of yourself. Isn't that just wearing out your body? Do you think it's worth it for the money? Isn't it just like having the money but don't have the life to spend it? Do you want that to happen? On the opposition side, the upside it seems to be saying a healthy working on and on for hours is a good trade-off for a healthy life. However, that is not true because a healthy life can impact you for because the because a healthy life can impact you for so long. It depends if you're gonna lie in bed your whole elderly age, or are you gonna or will you can still walk around, still have fun. Hello, my name is Elaine, and I stand firmly on the proposition side of this debate. Of this debate, this house would encourage the rise of self-care culture. So now moving on to our team's definitions. So self-care means a thing you can do to improve your life or your life environment. Okay. So on our side, we will make resting or self-care culture rise, or in other words, let more people to take care of themselves or to know that they could or to know to take care of themselves. But however, we're not making the people become lazy or just don't do anything and lie on a bed too, but by the words of self-care. And just a clarification, just a clarification on our team, self-care, another definition for self-care is a way that people can take care of themselves goodly. For example, having exercise, having a good amount of water, and eating healthy food. Now moving on to my claim. My claim is that self-care culture encourages healthy lifestyles. So my first reason is, without self-care, people could work or learn on and on for hours, and without resting or taking breaks. And that is not okay because people will eventually worn out. It could lead to problems. It could lead to problems like diabetes or heart diseases. So but with self-care culture, people will know to take care of themselves, like eating healthy instead of having one mind, and exercising instead of being a couch potato, drinking good amounts of water instead of drinking soda or juice, or only drinking when you're eating. And more. Now moving on to my second reason. My second reason is that some countries don't know or don't have the incentives of self-care because in some countries they think that only if you work hard, work on and on for hours, and not sleep, that is the only way that you can be successful, or that is the only way that you can become that you can receive your dreams. But however, that is not true because, like I said, if you don't have the life or a good if you don't have the life or a healthy body, you cannot spend the money. For example, in China, the China public students, they have a lot of classes and they also have a lot of homework, and they don't have time to even rest, or they don't even have time to go out and play. But however, that will impact their health because they're always sitting down, which is bad for their back, and also they don't go out, which means they have less vitamin C, and also this way they all they ever do is do homework and never go out and actually relax and actually have a great time with their parents. And now moving on to my third reason. My third reason is if there's less physical health problems, which means there'll be less spending on the medical fees. This way they can spend the money on more of economy and improving their life. This impacts us healthy people and a better economy. So, for these reasons, please vote for the proper proposition side of this debate. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, unlike what the team government says, the reality is that there are many self-care culture. Moreover, the motion suggests a bigger problem for the world. It is that people would put themselves first. Our team's stance is to block from people from only caring about themselves. Therefore, team opposition strongly believes that we should not support the rise of self-care cultures. In my speech, I will rebut the Prime Minister's arguments about that we should support self-care culture. Next, I will present two arguments which are self-care cannot solve society's real problems and self-care culture weakens communities. First, the Prime Minister said that it'll it'll help the economy, but in our opinion it'll not, because when self-care culture increases, then people will only think them first and put them first, and that'll lead them to not care about anyone, and that'll not help anyone. Also, she said that physical it'll help the economy in a lots of ways, but we already said that it'll not help because people will only think about them first. Our first argument is that self-care cannot solve society's real problems. Self-care will Self-care will make people only think about themselves, and it'll also make them be uh, avoid discomfort. Then people will just stop challenging themselves because they only want comfort and will just avoid every time discomfort. So then people will lose resilience and personal growth, and it'll be society's real problems because the person are the ones who should grow and who should solve the society's problems. I'll make an example. In the UK, so many people feel alone that the government created a minister for loneliness in 2018. This was the first time in history. Why? Because too many people were focused on themselves and stopped looking out for each other. Self-care culture would break communities apart. Our second argument is that self-care culture weakens communities. If self-care culture is done, then it'll make them protect their own peace first for the people. Then people will stop helping others, and the communities will be weaker and weaker and weaker. I'll make an example. In Japan, many workers were dying from overwork. This is called karashi, deaths from working too much. What did Japan do? Did they tell workers go do some yoga, take a bubble bath? No, they changed the law. They made it illegal for companies to force too much overtime. They fixed the system, not the individual. That is the real solution. In summary, we presented two strong arguments today. Firstly, self-care cannot solve society's real problems, and secondly, self-care culture weakens communities. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe it is important to block people from only thinking about themselves. Therefore, I am proud to oppose the motion. Thank you.
So, judges, my opponents, how many times have you looking for just taking a break because you need to finish your work to take as the proposition speaker, second speaker of proposition? My team fully support the right of self-care culture at the top. First, I will my ability and my rebuttals. My teammate said that the self-care culture can help the economy. My opponent attempted to rebut this by saying that people would only put themselves first and the economy would drop because they become more selfish. But having self-care culture doesn't mean being self-centered. It is completely different, these two things. Having self-care culture is just being like caring for yourself more, not like putting others in front of you. Moving on to my rebuttals. My opponent argued that people would stop challenging themselves and become more selfish and self-centered. My response to that is that her claim is off topic. Self-care culture doesn't mean being selfish. As I said before, self-care culture is just putting yourself in front of others. You still help others, just less. and you care for yourself a little bit more. And being selfish is just not doing teamwork and not and and like being super selfish and not letting other people touch your things and not helping them. It is two completely different things. Moving on to my claim and argument. My claim is that self-care culture improves people's mental health. Life today is full of stress from study, work, and social media. For example, a kid is always scrolling through social media and seeing different very good people's like things and test scores. They think they are so good and they just don't care about themselves and just study more. It is bad for their mental health. Self-care culture tells people that it is okay to slow down and look after their feelings. It stops people from feeling guilty for resting, lowers anxiety, and prevents serious burnout. Everyone gets a simple, affordable way to feel calmer each day. My opponents may say that self-care culture makes people lazy and self-centered. But self-care is not avoiding responsibilities. It is fixing stress so we can handle duties better. For example, students studying 5 hours per day and 5 hours per day and 7 days per week would become very anxious and feeling nervous. But self-care cultures like taking a walk for 20 minutes or just relaxing for a few hours would calm their nerves down, and it is a lot better for their mental health. My argument is important because less daily anxiety and burnout, fewer people struggle with bad moods or panic. Too much mentally bad people would create a very unbalanced community and people would start being very strange and behaving very strange. In conclusion, judges, if you want calmer students and calmer people and the whole community to have better mental health, and please vote for the proposition side. Thank you. Mr. Madam Speaker, we still strongly believe supporting the rise of self-care culture is unavailable. I'll rebut all the claims coming from the proposing side. We said that no self-care culture makes people unhealthy, but we are not saying we're banning self-care. We are not letting to support the rise of self-culture. They said that no self-culture makes people become unhealthy and lazy, but like I said, we're not saying we put more. We're we're not just banning self-care, and self-care culture does not mean we're gonna make people become lazy. We're gonna make people no self-care culture means they said that no self-care culture make people lazy, but but if self-care culture is the person who's staying alone, if they have more friends, they will try to be playful and it will help them more for mental health. And they said it's not about selfishness, but doesn't caring provide in teamwork, and if there's teamwork, then then selfish won't be won't be in teamwork, so it won't be a problem. And they said the self-care culture improves mental health, but spending time with people can cure mental health. So why would you want kids to be alone if they might have a mental health because of loneliness? Now I'll move on to our last argument. Our last argument is self-care culture put feelings before responsibility. Let me explain. Years ago, people who worked on companies did actions like quiet quitting. This means people who work only do a part of their work and give all the work to the other workers. This caused self-care culture. But Gov support the rise of self-care culture. This can lead to people giving all the work to others and only caring about themselves. And if people only want the the people to follow only themselves, nobody will be along harmony. So for these clear reasons, I am proud to oppose. Thank you.
So as the third speaker of my side, I'll do the clash analysis and do the rebuttal. So firstly, there's one main clash in the debate, and what is the best for people? In our case, we believe that we should put the self before other people, and Op claims that if we do that, they are going to become more selfish, and we can actually use policy to regulate them if they are being overworked. So they claim that making individuals thinking one mindset is not the correct way to help this problem. In fact, they want to use policy to help them. So firstly, to add on to my teammates' rebuttal, self-care does not mean that they are selfish. It means that they are protecting themselves before they protect others. And I'll prove in the later parts to that why it's going to benefit the whole society. And so, secondly, they also claim that using the policy is the right way of managing companies, but however, that is not correct. The policy is an ineffective way of managing companies. Like those companies, they usually always have ways of wiggling out of policies. For example, a lot of policies state that people should not work more than 8 hours. But however, they always have excuses to let to work more. It also means that even if they are perfectly regulated in those policies, it means that they don't have their own opinion. It means that they're manipulated. It means that they don't have the ability to have a solution. They don't have the ability to stand up. And that is not what we want. We don't want the majority of the citizens in the world to lose their mind and thinking and just be an empty shell without a soul. So if we support the rise, that means that more people will actually have the a chance and have the opinion to speak for themselves and actually protect the whole place. And also now moving on to a clarification, a self-care does not mean that we're going to be selfish. It means putting the self and the mind in the first place, and if they have more effort, they may help others. And also they said about if we actually implement a mindset of self-care, like we make like most of the people in the world putting themselves in the first place, it means that they will take feelings more importantly than responsibility, and that is not what they want. But however, that's not going to happen in our case. Just because you are protecting yourself or you like yourself better does not essentially mean that you are going to take all of the responsibility to others. Putting yourself in the first place does not mean that there will not be punishments for something that you should not do. For example, skipping classes or committing crime. It only believes that in the legal limits, we are protecting ourselves. But if you do something wrong, there is still going to be punishments, unless it is morally incorrect. And so that means that self-care does not mean that there are no consequences. It also means that in the whole way, we are protecting ourselves first. Now, moving on to a larger scale. If everyone is protecting themselves, if everyone or most of the people in our case is happy, they have their opinion, they have their thinking, and everyone is happy they do their work, and there's probably less crime because they don't have to care for others and they don't have to collect for pressure. The whole society is going to be a better place. But however, in their case, if everyone is thinking for someone else, their whole life is crazy, their whole life is a mess, but other people are happy in some ways, then it's not going to be a healthy environment. They are born to have their own opinions, but in their case, they cannot. So for all those reasons, please vote for our side.
Honorable adjudicators and fellow speakers, today I want to say three clashes to support the opposition side's argument. Also, this debate is not about improving, it's about morality. But before I go into my clashes, I want to rebut against the third speaker of the other team. She said they protect their
trying to protect themselves before they protect other people. But this is kind of wrong because they made a big mistake. First, they did not answer. They never said how to protect themselves. And second, even though they explained it, I think there's they this is a wrong way to protect themselves. So they so now I'm done with rebutting against the other team. I want to move on to my clashes. My first clash is that responsibility. Is it responsibility or is it your own emotion? If the government if the government keeps on protecting it like this, they will start to think they're about only their emotions, but not about the responsibility of their own actions. Like this is a real case that there was like a girl in middle school who killed another person because someone did this to her, but she did not feel guilty. So what can you say for this? She is putting her emotion first before her responsibility. Now I'm done explaining my first clash. I want to say my second clash. Uh, is is this really help? Does this really help society? Our team said no. They are stressed. The other team said they are stressed because of burnouts and too much homework and lack of money. But these problems cannot be solved by government solution. It could only solve they can only solve it in the community and at school or academies. So the result of Goff's method will only worsen stress, burnouts, and economy. But Ops' opinion will go along better for the economy. It with less with two worlds, there will be less fight in Ops' opinion. Now I'm done with my second clash. I want to move on to my last clash. Does this worsen community or help community? We think it will worsen the community. Work community is made to work together and to put the ideas together. But in government world, they will only support their own ideas and their emotion. But government don't think about this. But opposition do. For this reason, opposition wins this clash. So here's the question: does self-care culture make better life? Guff said yes, but we should it puts feeling before responsibility. It hides real problem instead of fixing it. Self-care culture doesn't make us better people. It makes us alone and it makes us uh makes us better customers. Taking care of yourself is fine, but culture that's always put you first, that is just a world full of fights. So that is just a world full of fights. A world is a so our world's a better whose world is a better world. Golf world full of fights and putting their emotion first, then their responsibility, or ops world who put their responsibility and who can change this world without fighting. We are very proud to oppose thanks to these reasons. Thank you.
Mr. Madam Speaker, as the opposition reply speaker, let me walk you through today's debate to show why team opposition prevailed at the end of the day. Our first argument was that self-care culture cannot solve society real problems. But the opposite team said that it will make more calm people. However, we think that it'll make people self-care culture will make people only think about themselves because they're thinking about themselves first, and that'll not make their thinking equally to with each other. So our second argument was that self-care culture makes problems in communities. However, the opposition team said the self-care culture is not same as selfish, but self-care culture is protection, but selfish is not. However, we are saying the self-care culture is causing selfish, and that is why we think so. Lastly, our third argument was that self-care culture provides feelings to before responsibility. This the government said that this people might give all their work to other people because this means people might give all their work to other people because they want to cure their own problem. But this problem is caused by the government. Lastly, I will tell you about the word I'll compare the two words. In the government word, everyone will put themselves first and it'll be not equal. However, in the opposition, it'll be fair, and people will care about all of them. Thank you.
Judge, let me take you into the reality. All of the propositions rebuttals and saying has only make sense if we didn't if they didn't listen to our definition of self-care. Our definition of self-care is a way that you can take care of yourself by drinking more water, exercising more, and eating healthy. And drinking more water, exercising more, and eating more healthy doesn't mean that you're gonna become a selfish person that be like, because I drink water and I exercise every day, then I'm better than you, then I'm not gonna help you or anything. That doesn't make sense. On our team, we're saying how these things can improve people's health, physical and mental health, which is more important more important than theirs not make sense rebuttals because the rebuttals only make sense if in our team our self-care definition is that they only care about themselves anymore than yeah, our self-care definition is caring by themselves in a way where they can become better by drinking more water and then exercising more. And also, I want to rebut something. They only said that they only care. They also said that they only care about themselves and no responsibility, and there will be fights everywhere. But however, as our third speaker said, there will be punishment they do something wrong. It's all like just because they have self-care that they're not going to go to jail. It doesn't mean that they're not going to have consequences. And also, I'm going to do a compare. Our team speeches is more important than them because we are talking about the healthcare, the mental and physical care. However, when they are talking about how people are going to be selfish, and also if everybody's going to care about themselves, why would people have because they can take care about themselves better or then do they actually need other people to help take care about themselves? Neighbors that don't really know each other? Or are they saying that's in their or are they saying in the opposition world where people are only gonna care about others and not care about themselves? Would it lead to worse mental health and physical health? For these reasons, I am proud to propose. Thank you.